I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement.
Hello and welcome to DevTech Diaries podcast. I'm your host Andre, and today I'm going to be talking about a subject that's a bit controversial as far as I'm concerned, and that is quiet quitting. Now, we've heard this term thrown around quite a lot lately. Now, what does it mean? So, as far as I can tell, it's defined as workers not putting in any extra effort in the job, just giving it the bare minimum, not doing anything extra, basically not caring at all about what's happening, and putting other things at the top of their mind, like your work-life balance with your home life, and prioritizing themselves for everything. You could argue that that's not a bad thing, right? This is 2022. You're supposed to take care of yourself. You're supposed to look after your development, your free time, relax, and everything else. I have no issue with that. I'm actually quite a firm believer that's exactly what we should be doing. However, I do have an issue when this is sold to the younger generations as a step forward. So let me explain why. When you are young, right, you finish school, you are, I don't know, 18 or 21, maybe you've gone to uni and you're like literally in your early 20s. That is probably the best time of your life. You're young, you're in super shape, right? You have no responsibilities. More than likely, you're not going to have a family. In terms of you're not going to be married, you're not going to have children, you're not going to have this kind of responsibilities. What you will have is time. If you're smart and don't waste that time on doing other things like partying too much or going to the clubs every day or whatever. So assume you're not part of that. Assume you are actually someone with a lot of free time. You don't have a lot of money, but you've got your health and you've got time. Now, those two are actually quite important. So what should you do? You start looking around, you start looking for jobs, you find something, you get paid a small amount, let's say. Nobody's going to give you crazy amounts of money in the beginning. And you decide that, you know what, I'm not actually going to put in any effort. I'll just come to work, someone will tell me what to do, and I will do that, and then I'm going home, and I don't know, I'm going to watch Netflix all day, or I'm going to play a game, or I'm going to go to the pub, or whatever. Now, that is the kind of attitude that I'm against. So why do I say that? Because we have the time, and that's something I've done myself as well, because we have the time, because it's the best time of our lives, because we have our health and everything else. The time that we have should be invested in our development. Whatever field you work in, whatever kind of job you have, whatever company you work for, it doesn't matter. The point is, when you start fresh and you don't have a lot of skills, your main concern should be on developing those skills, right? Or assuming you work in an industry where you want to be long term, because sometimes you may not. But let's leave that on the side for now, right? You are in your chosen industry, and you want to develop your skills, because as you develop your skills, as you gain more experience, you start to get better and better offers, and you start making more and more money. See, life is not like you go to the races and you're going to get to the top in 5 minutes flat. No, it's a marathon, meaning that you have to look at it for the next 20 or 30 years of your career, and you have to ask yourself, where would I want to be, right? And most times you're not going to know the answer. I mean, I certainly didn't. You don't know what's going to happen. But one thing is for sure, the more skills you have, the better you are at what you do, the better packages you're going to get, the more money you're going to make. And that is important, because obviously you want to be in that position. So putting in the effort is a way of achieving that. What you want to do is, yes, work your evenings. Yes, do the best that you can. Work as much as you can. Learn as much as you can. It's all about learning at this stage. And you don't want to be in a position where someone is going to tell you every 5 minutes what you need to do, because that shows that you don't actually care, and it shows that you have no desire to come up with any ideas. You don't have any interest, and you don't have any initiative. So these are things which are not going to help. Doesn't matter where you work. Now, please understand something. Companies don't care about you as an individual. Like literally no one cares. So I'm not saying you should start showing loyalty and you should, no, far from that. No. But you always need to keep your eyes on what's important to you. So if you start, and this is something that I've said before, if you're a new software developer, let's say, and you're trying to get your first job, my advice is get your job, stay in it for a while. Ideally is a couple of years. That's kind of the reasonable amount of time, because with 2 years of proper experience, then a lot of doors open for you. You might be pushing it as well. Maybe it's a year and a half, but 2 years is a good enough time. That's kind of what I'm thinking. But that time needs to be used to develop yourself, to learn, to push yourself, to do the extra work, put in the effort, because nothing comes for free and nobody's going to give you anything for free. So as a young person, you need to realize that. When we are very, very young, right, and that applies to everybody, myself included, when we are very, very young, we don't know what we're talking about. We have no life experience, we don't have any work experience, we haven't seen anything yet. And yes, we all have those grand ideas that we're going to change the world and blah, blah, blah. We all go through that. This is not a Gen Z, Gen X, Gen Y, Gen whatever thing. Every generation goes through that. We all finish school and we are 16 or 18 and life is, right there for you to grab and do whatever. And you think you can change the world. Most of us do not, let's be honest. And that realization comes later in life. What we can do, however, what we do control is our own self-development, and that's the important bit. And I remember when I swapped jobs to programming, I was looking around me, and other people who are younger or in very similar positions that would waste their time in going to the pubs and whatnot, and going drinking and whatnot, and I was spending my time learning and improving my skills. And later on, they're still doing the same thing, not making a lot, while my career has gone in a very different way, and I'm actually making quite a lot, and I've got a very good life. But that did not come easy, and it did not come for free. It's a 10+ year investment into this kind of thing. So think about your career as a ladder, right? It's one step at a time. You might be able to jump sometimes, but ideally you want to go one step at a time. Not necessarily very, very fast, but you want to go steady, because that's what matters, right? And that's kind of my advice. Quiet quitting, okay, it's a thing that's been happening for a long time. Let's be honest, this isn't new. We've just invented a new term for literally no reason. But now it seems like some part of the audience is trying to push that onto the very young generation and explain that that's actually the way to do it, when actually it's not. It's detrimental to you as a young person to do that. Okay, there are people, and don't get me wrong, there are many people who do this right now, and quite older, let's say. They're not going to be 20, but they might be 35, 40, 50, whatever. And these are people that maybe went to a new company with lots of ideas, with lots of initiatives. They tried to do stuff, but then nothing happened. Like literally nothing happened, because nobody cared. And that happens a lot. Most companies are very, very slow to implement anything or to try anything. They're even scared to try new things. Because they, whatever they have, it may not be good, but it works. So that's where this is coming from. So that's a form of quiet quitting. At that point, those people start to wonder, why am I trying? There's no point in trying, nothing is ever going to change. So I'll just do the bare minimum, or I'm going to leave. Those are the two options. You leave, you go somewhere else, and the cycle repeats. Or you just stop caring and you just do the bare minimum, you collect your paycheck, and that's it. You're done. That's basically also quiet quitting. But that comes later in life, and I'm not saying that's a good thing. So for me, it's always, I'd rather quit and go somewhere else and try again than be in a place where I'm bored to death and I know nothing is ever going to change. Maybe not never, but even if I know that things are not going to change anytime soon, then what's the point in staying there? But that's kind of my point. I'm not trying to impose that on anyone. That's kind of how I do things. I'd rather go and try again somewhere else. But like I said, it's a very big difference between where you are in your career. And I remember, I've heard discussions from young people some years ago. Do you remember the job centers that we used to have? So there was one in Leamington, where I used to live many, many years ago. And I remember walking past one, and there were 3 young people around it with shock expression on their faces. And one of them was saying, "Oh, they want me to go to work for £6 an hour. I can't afford to live off that." So I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to go home and live off benefits. And I'm thinking to myself, I didn't say anything, obviously, it wasn't my place, but I'm thinking to myself, yeah, that's in the beginning when you don't have any kind of skills, you don't have any experience. That's why you get a job and you start investing in yourself and you start developing your skills, because you're not going to be on that £6 an hour forever. You know, if you have any kind of initiative, if you're a smart person, and let's face it, most people at that age could and should be intelligent, right? Then the world is your oyster, mate. That literally the world is your oyster. But you have to start somewhere. Nobody's gonna give you, like I said before, nobody is ever gonna give you anything for free. It's not gonna happen, because you have to be realistic and think, okay, what do I bring to the table? Do I have any skills? Well, no, not really. Do I have any life experience? Well, no, not really. Well, then what do I expect? What are my expectations? So in the beginning, the expectations should be very low, but the interest to develop your own skills should be very high. So that's why you go in. And because you don't have all the other responsibilities, you don't have a mortgage, you don't have a family, you don't have children, no spouse or anything like that, then you have time. So what I'm saying is, think very carefully what you decide to do with your time. This has nothing to do with loyalty to a company, because let's make it very clear here. I haven't met a single company that deserves a loyalty for its employees. Not one so far. So the best we can do is to do and learn the most that we can and develop our skills and keep going and keep getting paid better and better, because that affects our quality of life. And later on, at some point, you might decide that, you know what, I've already built my career, I'm happy where I am. You might be a senior leader, whatever. Think, you know what, I'm actually quite happy. At this point, I could take it a bit easier. And that's fair enough. And that's because you can't go you can't go a full speed 100% all the time. You can't do that. But you can when you're young, because of all the reasons I mentioned before. But later on, you're going to slow down. It's a natural thing. You just can't do it anymore, especially in an industry like ours, where, yes, you still have to keep learning, but there's also the other side. Some things never go out of importance and out of date, let's say. Like designs, for example, or design patterns, or ways of building software. They don't change. Okay, frameworks might, but it doesn't mean anything. So as long as your knowledge is at high enough level to give you the foundation for whatever you need to do, then you don't really have an issue. And you don't have to jump on everything that's new under the sun. You literally don't have to do it. What you can do is focus on the things that you enjoy and you like doing, and just keep working with that. And of course, there's also the danger that at some point that particular, whatever it is, framework or language or whatever, will get out of date or will be replaced by something else. But that's when you can start looking at other things. And sometimes you can be ahead of the curve. But that's besides the point. So my point is, there's a place and there's a time for everything. When you are young and you're just starting a career, that is not the time to be quiet quitting, because that is actually harming you, not your employers. No, you. Okay? Because nobody's going to start giving you more money if your skills are the same as they were 2 years ago. It's not going to happen. So think about it very, very well. Think about what you want to do. Think about how you want your career to go. Okay? And this isn't about someone else. This is about you. Okay? So very high on your list should be this idea of self-development. If you don't have that, then nothing is ever going to change. So there you go. You'll also find that there are areas where you can focus and spend your time that give you the most returns. Okay, so what do? You go to a shop these days, you are very likely to see very young people or very old people. Okay, working on the tills, for example. Young people who are just beginning their careers and they do something to make a bit of money, or older people who are partially retired or maybe retired completely, but they still do a few hours here and there just to keep them mobile and keep the brain working a little bit, or even make a bit of extra cash. And that's fine. But you have to wonder, you start there, but is this where you want to be? So you want to be into a place where it takes quite a bit of work to get to. Right? Because if it's too easy and everybody can do it, then you don't really have an advantage over anyone else. So what you want to do is you want to focus on the places and industries where there are not enough people. There's always a demand, and it's not actually that easy to break into or advance your career. It requires quite a bit of brain power and effort. That's where you want to be. That's where you're going to be earning the most money, not by doing something that everybody else is doing. So to get there, you have to recognize what these things are, and you have to put in the effort to get there. And that might be through education, through practice, through talking to other people, through trying it. That's how you do it. So I think there's enough of a discussion on this subject for now. My advice, I think, is very clear. Don't do it. Don't be stupid. Don't do it. You're literally harming yourself. Think about that. Think about what I said. Think about the loyalty that I mentioned before, and don't show that. No, it's perfectly fine to spend some time in a place and learn as much as you can and then move somewhere else because you want to keep learning. That's the whole point. If you are in a place where you don't learn, where you just do the same thing over and over, that's not the place for you. Once you've learned everything, once you've achieved everything you can possibly achieve, move on. Or even a bit before that. You don't have to stay if there's not much more to look forward to, right? You want to be in a place where you can actually learn, where you can develop your career, where you have people around you that are much better than you. That's what you want. You don't want to be stuck in a place where you don't learn anything. So just think about these things. Think about these things and don't allow other people to influence you. You should be using your youth, you should be using your time and your lack of responsibility to improve yourself. Because once you get into a place where you have a family, you have a child, you have a mortgage to pay, at that point you are trapped. It's a lot more difficult to make a switch to something that you want to do when you have all these heavy rocks tied to your back. Okay, you know you need to pay your mortgage every month, or else you know you need to feed your child, you need to pay your nursery fees or whatever. So use the time that you have before that happens very, very wisely. That's all I'm saying. Thank you very much, and I will talk to you next time.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got